The Soviet Union is in the middle of a great national catastrophe, as decades of a stagnating economy has made our country weak. To fix our many problems, the All-Russian Congress of Soviets has elected a member of the Reform Party to be our new president, Mikhail Gorbachev. After taking office, Gorbachev has implemented two big reforms in the Soviet Union. The first is perestroika, or the restructuring of the economy, and the second is glasnost, or openness, of the political system of the Soviet Union. Gorbachev also declared that the era of Soviet military influence in East Europe is over, and that they were free to choose their own futures. As the next part of his reforms, he further liberalized and democratized the Soviet Union, while also seeking détente, or peaceful coexistence with the West. But all these reforms have made the conservatives of the Soviet Union very angry, and the leader of the conservative faction of the Communist Party, Yanayev, staged a coup with the help of Khrushchev, the leader of the KGB, and Yazov, the leader of the military. Together, the three of them, with help from other members of the party, devised a plan on how to coup the Soviet government. They waited until Gorbachev took a holiday to his holiday house in Crimea, where they put him under house arrest and cut all communications with the outside world. In the following days, they addressed the Soviet public, and their official explanation on why Gorbachev was missing was that he was sick and that he only needed to rest for a while before he could work again.
Находится в полной безопасности, ему ничего не угрожает. Единственное, надо определенное время для того, чтобы он надеялся, что мой друг, президент Горбачев, будет в строю, и мы будем еще вместе работать.
During the coup, some of our member states used this as an opportunity and left the Soviet Union. These were the Republic of Latvia and Estonia, and the Republic of Armenia and Azerbaijan. After the coup, Yanayev promised the people stability and happiness. Now in the present day, it has been 9 years since the coup happened, and Yanayev has failed to deliver on his promises, as we still have a bunch of economic problems. At the same time, the next All-Russian Congress is coming up, the event where they choose the next Soviet leader, and this has made things politically unstable in the Soviet Union, as all of the factions in the Soviet Union are fighting each other, as they want their candidate to be the next leader of the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, there are four main factions. First is the conservative faction, led by Boris Pugo, and they seek to restore the Union back to the original path that Lenin had intended for it. And the second one is the reformers, led by Nikolai Ryazov, and they intend to continue Gorbachev's policies of glasnost and perestroika. The third faction in the Soviet Union is the military, led by Comrade Yazov, and they seek to restore Soviet influence in Eastern Europe and the former SSRs, and maybe even more. The fourth and final faction in the Soviet Union is the KGB, led by Vladimir Putin, who is actually a fierce Russian nationalist. Before his resignation, Yanayev held a speech televised to the whole Union, and in the speech he mainly criticized the Soviet Union's lack of military readiness, causing a boost of popularity to the military faction of the Soviet Union. And in the next All-Russian Congress, Yazov was voted in as the next president of the Soviet Union. But before Yazov can go through with his plans of reconquering the former territories, he must first secure the chairmanship of the Soviet Union. The first thing he did was deal with Gorbachev, as the memory of his reign is still fresh in the minds of the people. And so he sentenced Gorbachev with a death penalty. And next, Comrade Yazov set up multiple rigged trials for all of the other opposition leaders in the Soviet Union. And after he was done with that, we are now ready to tackle the economy. For the new economic plan, Yazov had two options. He could dedicate all of our resources into the military, or he could do a compromise solution. And Yazov, realizing that he couldn't let his people suffer, he chose the compromise solution. To increase the wealth of the Soviet Union, Yazov focused on increasing the industrial output of the Soviet Union and its SSRs. He started a bunch of new industrialization programs aimed at building more and more civilian factories. But only having new civilian factories will not solve the underlying problems with our economy. To fix the underlying problems, Yazov implemented Olgas, the Soviet version of the internet, to optimize and centralize our production lines even further. And now that he has successfully reformed the economy, we can deal with the consequences of the perestroika. Now that we have fixed our civilian economy, we can focus on our military economy. So Yazov restarted the Soviet nuclear program to build a bunch more nukes. And he also implemented Olgas into the military to help it modernize, with also building a lot of more military factories. Now we only have one final problem to deal with before we can focus on expanding. And that is the problem of rising nationalism throughout the Union. There are two ways to deal with this. First, with force, or we can negotiate with the rebels. But Yazov, being a military man, chose to use force. So, using our powerful military, we shelled resistance towns and we fought with the rebels. And after a few days, we were able to stop all rebel activity in the Soviet Union. But now that all internal problems are solved, we can begin looking outward. And the first thing that Comrade Yazov wanted to do was reconquer the republics that had broken away from us during the coup. A few days later, with our superior military, we were able to defeat all of the former SSRs and reincorporate them. And now Yazov plans to go to war and reconquer Eastern Europe to liberate all the workers. Before declaring war on Eastern Europe, Yazov had to prepare, and he did this by first creating a bunch of plans and contingencies, and second, increasing the budget of the military. And then after a few months of meticulous planning, he felt that we were ready to take on Eastern Europe. Because of our investments into the military, Eastern Europe fell quite quickly. And a few days later, we announced the restoration of the Warsaw Pact. During our war in Eastern Europe, we actually didn't declare war on Czechia, and this is because they were the only one of our former Warsaw Pact members to be able to join NATO. But Czechia's economy is still quite vulnerable as they are still undergoing mass privatization. So we might be able to turn Czechia communist without going to war with them. So to ruin their economy, we initiated an economic blockade of the Czech Republic, which made their fragile economy crash. And to make it crash even more, we sent some undercover NKVD agents into the Czech Republic and made them bomb some stuff, which made their economy crash even more. And we promoted some propaganda about the Czechoslovakia in the past to the people as an alternative solution to the Czechoslovakia of now. And all of our efforts has caused Czechoslovakia in a few days later to collapse and have a revolution which made it communist. Now that we have dealt with Czechoslovakia and restored the Warsaw Pact, it's time to go to the next step in Comrade Yazov's plan and invade China. Because ever since the death of Mao Zedong, Chinese people have been practicing a corrupt version of communism, and so we prepared for the invasion of China.
Заправлены в планшеты космические карты, и штурман уточняет, последний раз маршрут. Давайте-ка, ребята, споемте перед стартом, у нас еще в запасе 14 минут. Я верю, друзья, караваны ракет помчат нас вперед от звезды до звезды. На пыльных тропинках далеких планет останутся наши следы. На пыльных тропинках далеких планет останутся наши следы.
Now that China is secured, it's time to deal with our old enemy, the United States of America, and NATO. But before we declare war on them, we must declare war on Finland to protect our northern front, and especially Leningrad. So then a few days later, we declared war on Finland, but this time around it wasn't even much of a challenge, and we defeated them in a few days. But before we can declare war on NATO, we need to prepare. So we built a bunch of new military factories, and we got some labor from our puppets in China to work in them. And then we also ramped up the amount of nuclear bombs we're producing each day. So then a few days later, we declared war on the United States of America and all of NATO.
Расцветали яблони и груши, поплыли туманы над рекой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег, на крутой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег, на крутой. Выходила, песню заводила про степного сизого орла, про того, которого любила, про того, чьи письма берегла. Про того, которого любила, про того, чьи письма берегла. Ой, ты песня, песенка не вечер, и лети за ясным солнцем свет, и бойцу на дальнем пограничье от Катюши передай привет. И бойцу на дальнем пограничье от Катюши передай привет.
We have done it. From Paris to Beijing, we have created a true union of Soviet socialist republics and have spread communism worldwide. Thanks for watching my video. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family.